regulations are not applicable to school property and not intended to replace or abrogate regulations prohibiting possession of weapons on school property found in Criminal Law Article 4-102 of the Annotated Code of Maryland. So essentially just seeking to clarify that this bill before you has nothing to do with the school property prohibition or any exceptions that may exist to allow for firearms or other weapons on school property. This is specifically addressing government-owned and operated buildings. We do not operate those school facilities. So at the appropriate time, we would ask for that amendment to be approved or introduced. And then lastly, before we open it for public comment or your questions, I do have comments to share from Recreation, Parks, and Tourism. Recreation, Parks, and Tourism Department for Charlton County are asking that this board hold a work session at the close of the public hearing sometime in the future. They do have strong opposition to allowing guns on any property in which RPT has facilities, parks, programs, which are on county-owned, state-owned, or school property, which there are three primary areas of concern: that there is a confusing public message due to the various property types. RPT owns and or operates facilities, parks, and programs on county property, state property, and school property. The wear and carry is currently banned in state parks and also school locations. The new legislation, in the opinion of RPT, would create a conflict for staff and customers alike to allow guns on county-owned and operated property for some programs, parks, and facilities, and not others, as it will be based on the location. It is their opinion that it would cause confusion depending on where staff works and where customers visit or use RPT services. They also have security concerns due to high park trail usage and increased sports-related shootings in recent times. Lastly, funding will be needed, according to RPT, for expenses to provide security at county-owned and operated properties. The proposed legislation would be a change from our current policies, as firearms are not allowed at any park currently. The current SOP, which is our hunting on county-owned property SOP, restricts hunting on county property, in which it also states that no firearms are permitted in that SOP. So clearly, if this bill were to be passed, it would need to change that SOP, because now we would be permitting firearms in our parks and grounds. So allowing firearms will require, according to RPT, additional level of security beyond the current requirement in place for special events. Security will be needed at county-owned and operated sites, which may be in addition of park rangers, private security assistance from the sheriff's office, etc. So their request is that you hold a work session where this issue can be further discussed and debated with respect to parks and grounds, and the fact that parks and grounds are not in the current legislation. So at the conclusion of this public hearing, commissioners, it is the will of the board whether or not to close the record or to keep the record open, or to hold a work session in the future, and that concludes my remarks.
Just to let everyone know,
Microphone.
just to let everyone know, two items that I know there's concern about the retired officers portion not being allowed in the building. Two situations or things came to my attention today. One is that I should have known, but retired police officers that have the OSHA certifications are allowed to carry on school property. There's some, they have to make sure their badge is showing, it has to be concealed, and they have to have actual authority to carry the weapon. And also today, the Senate put out a bill, started one, Senate Bill 118, which prohibiting a person from wearing, carrying, or transporting a firearm in or on property controlled by the federal government, state government, or local government. So also, one of the exemptions in that is also for retired officers. A reasonable person, if the commissioners decide to add the OSHA or retired officers to our ban, I will accept it. And if anybody has any questions, I'll do that.
That was actually my next question for you, Mrs. Mitchell. Were there any differences of who's allowed to carry in the school system opposed to what this bill says? And I think John answered my question that retired law enforcement is allowed to. So I would be willing to entertain a motion to amend if we include the fact that LEOSA or retired officers would be included in the persons that could carry here in county buildings. I mean, everyone to accept that amendment or make that motion. Do we do it now, Mr. President?
I don't know, because we're going through a public hearing, and I think we do anticipate that there will likely be a work session. From my understanding, that would be the appropriate time to look for amendments. But
I don't, that's why I'm asking, I guess, because if I'm not gonna support the RPT request, but if we go through the RPT request, we have to have another public hearing. Whereas if we do the motion now, or do the amendment now, does this count? So we don't have to redo it. Does that make sense?
seeking guidance from council.
I think you can make your amendment now. With respect to the RPT request, I would say that would be substantive enough that it would be the recommendation of staff or of legal counsel to hold a second public hearing. But I do believe you could entertain a motion now if you'd like to add the retired law enforcement. And also, if you are going to make a motion, I would also ask that you include that amendment that I referenced with respect to the school properties that you have a copy of.
So basically, my amendment would just add law enforcement, retired law enforcement, to the ability to carry in county facilities, and just say that we won't contradict the public schools and their policy. It sounded like the public schools had a little more liberal of a policy when it came to who could carry, and that's what we're saying we're adding who can carry in county buildings, correct?
Correct.
That would be my motion.
Second.
Been moved and properly seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Make a motion to approve the addition to lines 13 to 17 regarding the addition, these regulations are not applicable to school property stated that Ms. Mitchell read earlier. Make a motion to accept that amendment.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any further comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Ms. Mitchell, if I can have you to bring your attention to line number 7 through 13. I know the public has had a question, and some of our residents that are here now may have a question or be prepared to comment on this. So I just want to make sure it's clear. If I'm understanding this correctly, the bill reads, a building owned or operated by Charles County government or the Board of Charles County Commissioners. This includes, but is not limited to, a building or portion of a building leased by Charles County government, county commissioners, or Charles County government employees, or resident president for the purpose of performing their official employment duties. So with that one statement right there, Ms. Mitchell, is it true to state that in those office buildings where we lease a space, this would be applicable to that space, not the entire?
That's correct.
Okay, I know that was one of the concerns from a few residents, so I wanted to make sure we went on record to state that, and it's already captured in the bill. Thank you.
Just a couple with this. So line 27 and 28, it says an on-duty employee of a law enforcement agency authorized by the agency to possess firearms while on duty, or whose duty assignment involves the possession of firearms. I like to strike on duty because if it's an active duty police officer and they're off duty, if we're allowing LEOSA, which is retired law enforcement, then we should allow off-duty officers as well. Does that make sense?
Yes, except that this is not intended for officers. These are civilian employees that we're trying to capture with that exception. So,
Okay. Are they, so who are we talking about? Security guard?
Yesterday, we were talking about that there's some employees that are hired by the sheriff's office. They're technically civilians, but they're allowed to carry. So we added that to address those civilians that are authorized to carry.
So to clarify, off-duty police officers are allowed to carry
correct,
in this bill.
correct.
And there's, so if I'm hearing this correct, this bill is actually more lenient than the state or federal law because it allows you to carry in parts of Charles County, correct?
It would allow
Further comment?
John, and listen, with Mr. McConnell, what is your job here with Charles County Government?
I'm Chief of Central Services, which includes, security for the facilities.
Okay. And these recommendations we put forward, you were part of creating, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
What was your previous employment?
With the Sheriff's Office for 26 years.
Okay. I just want to give context to the growth of the bill, or outright the bill.
No other questions? We'll take our lead.
All right, commissioners, if there's no further questions, we will open the floor to comments. Some directions to everyone who is signed up to speak. I will name the first 5 and then the next 5 that will come up. If you come up, if you sit here, if you stand up, you can sit in those seats and then just come one right after the other and then call you up. And when you're done giving your testimony, if you can move down the other aisle, so that way we can keep things flowing and try to get everyone to answer their public comments. And when you come to the mic, if you can please state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to make your comments. And remember to keep your comments strictly to the topic the public hearing is on, which is on Bill 2023-14. All right. 5 speakers we have signed up to speak is Daniel Creighton, Ryan Gass, John Balasek, Evan Whitney, and Paul Duffy. So if Daniel Creighton can come up to the microphone.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Daniel Creighton, and my address is 4710 Bryantown Road. And I want to first point out that this synopsis was obviously printed a couple hours ago, because in the last 48 hours, there's been a number of changes to this bill, and that makes it really difficult for us, the citizens, to understand exactly what's being proposed here tonight and give us adequate time to do homework and research and understand what we can come here and say in the comment period. Additionally, this other conversation that happened right here was interesting, because there was other, good conversation that took place, but again, it goes to that the bill is still being developed and discussed, and we aren't able to come here fully understanding what was in the bill. So personally, I think the meeting should have been, this meeting should have been moved to another week to give us adequate time to prepare. Another comment that from the young lady here was that the intent was for, with the expansion of the concealed carry permits, that it had to do with protecting Charles County buildings. But I think it's important to point out that the original intent was much more expansive than that. And it included 100-yard buffers around over 300 properties in Charles County. Okay, that is a serious imposition to Charles County citizens, and an immense imposition to ask of us to avoid all of these potential zones. And I know it's been watered down from 100 yards to 100 feet down to the buildings, but I think that the fact that you actually put that forth in a proposed bill says a lot, because that is onerous and ridiculous, and clearly a violation of our rights. On top of that, you chose to exempt yourselves, and I think that says a lot. Hypocrisy. To think that there was even a thought that I was going to put in 335 100-yard bubbles in my Google Maps when I'm driving around Charles County that you wouldn't have to do is ridiculous. And I thought that was unfair and hypocrisy, and I just could not believe you proposed that. Monetary costs of this bill, has that been thought through? Nothing is free. There's going to be signs, there's going to be metal detectors, there's going to be metal detector maintenance policies and things like that. I don't know what it's going to cost, but I doubt it's been thought through fully. these type of bills that are getting proposed all across Maryland, Montgomery County, and other places, let me tell you, I'm one of the veterans in the room, and a lot of veterans here have been to places around the world and seen people who have lost their rights and had them removed from them, and it's not a pretty sight. And in many cases, it didn't happen from a big cataclysmic event. It happened piece by piece, drip by drip, and block by block when their rights were taken away. And proposals like this are exactly those kinds of things. Don't be complicit in it.
Ryan Gass is next.
Evening. I really hope you all sit up and listen as my 4-year-old daughter is pissed that we had to miss our youth group tonight at church, and in her own words, a dumb meeting with no kids' toys.
Mr. Gass, can you just state your name and address for the record?
Ryan Randolph Gass, senior now, just had my son born last week, and thank you. Address is 14901 Westwood Road. I am a local business owner and taxpayer. I own PTPGun.com firearms training, and in my business, we train citizens to safely, ethically use their firearms to defend themselves. Part of what we teach is surrounding laws in Maryland. Oftentimes, students will ask me why politicians find it necessary to create laws that restrict what the voters can do with their firearms, but leave themselves, the politicians, exempt from said gun laws. Many of these students are in this room tonight. They come from various occupations, races, genders, age groups, political affiliations, and income levels. This is not a partisan issue. This is a problem, I believe, that exists across the United States where politicians have a disconnect between themselves and the voters. So while I disagree with the proposed law from many aspects, and many others will make plenty of great points, I stand before you today with one simple question that I have never been able to answer. If this law is so good and necessary for the taxpayers, voters, business owners, residents, visitors, shoppers, and even those employed by Charles County themselves, why is it not good? Why is it not necessary for the board members themselves? We, the people, truly would appreciate hearing from the board members to properly address this, but I don't want to get our hopes up. We must have reasonable expectations. Thank you all. Stay safe and enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you. Also, while Mr. Dallas Sack is coming up, the next 5 speakers would be Randolph Sina, Bruce Smaldon, Michelle Woods, Tyson, and Daniel Waters.
Hi, I'm John Belazic. I live at 11280 Deer Farm Place in Clayton, Maryland. Basically, with the latest revision of this, if this is truly restricted to inside the buildings, this entire thing is moot. You can put metal detectors and signs on any of these buildings you want. You don't even need this bill. You don't need to waste 5 more minutes of our county's taxpayer money arguing this nonsense. You already have that authority. So why are you going to continue wasting our money on this? Also, it's like when you look at this, this is based on the Bruin decision. When you look at it statistically, licensed, permitted firearm carriers are statistically safer with firearms and far more law-abiding than even police officers. You are targeting the very people who are the safest people in your community. While you have drive-by shootings and you're like releasing on their own recognizance drug dealers caught with guns over and over. Every day I see that. Yeah. You guys and your employees are releasing drug dealers, carjackers with guns and drugs every day while you want to tie our hands behind our backs. I do see where you are all coming from with this bill, though. I understand it. Because I can see you, because I also feel the same way. Anybody who would vote for any of you can't be trusted with guns. Or any of the other
Thank you. The next speaker is Evan Whitten.
Whitman, and I live at 1836 Marshall Corner Road. The proposal being outlined by Bill 2022-14 would have serious ramifications for all citizens and non-residents of Charles County. Passing this bill is an attack on basic human rights and Second Amendment rights. Being able to defend yourself is a basic principle of human rights and from the philosophers that created this country and founded this country's ideals. John Locke himself said that the destruction of all individuals who attempt to harm me is my basic human right. John Locke created the founding for the majority of the United States government. Why is there an exemption for our elected officials? This is not something that should happen. You are representatives. You are not individuals who rule. You are not rulers, you are lawmakers, and you are representatives. You cannot put yourself in something that we cannot do. You are here to push our decisions and make them into law, not what rule us. It is an elitist attitude to think that you are better than us, and if you truly trust the security that you are putting into place, why do you feel that it's important for you to carry it? This bill should not be passed. Failure to remove the exemption for county commissioners tramples our rights as citizens, and it makes it so that, and it has no logic. It has no foundation in statistics, and it has no logic in terms of general public safety. Thank you.
Paul Douglas.
Douglas Paul, actually. No, you're fine. And I live at 1836 Marshall Corner. The Southern Poverty Law Center specializes in defending civil rights with a clear track record of victories against organized racial hatred. The SPLC specifically opposes individuals in positions of power with a noted history of attempting to enforce discriminatory policies and practices when they say these types of hateful individuals should not be the ones implementing policies that are not rooted in data, community input, or evidence-based solutions. I'm not against reasonable controls, but this bill, absent a data-driven argument made to the community, is a violation of the SPLC's opinion. Therefore, it is nothing short of an end run around Maryland's shall-issue legislation. During COVID, this board repeatedly refused to disclose the data you were using to make policy decisions. You simply preferred to answer that you were following the science. As of today, you've made no effort to explain why you should be exempt from the confines of this bill. Where is the data that shows your lives are more valuable than the law-abiding people of this county that carry weapons for hunting and that crime in Charles County is so rampant that you fear for your safety? If that's the case, I'd be curious how these beliefs align with your party's efforts to defund law enforcement. Yours is also the party that refuses to charge juveniles who bring guns to school and threaten their classmates. So you for gun control or against it? We recently learned that one of you leveraged your own racial hatred to so negatively impact this county, and others of you sought to cover it up. This seeks to enact law.
There she is. There she is. There she is.
To enact the law. Well, how are we supposed to trust the regions with such an exemption? You have lost that trust. Since you are fans of science, I will call attention to a study from the National Institutes of Health. Policymaking at the interface of gun violence prevention and mental illness should be based on specific scientific data to improve the effectiveness, feasibility, and fairness of policy initiatives. I bring this up because most conversations at the national level around red flag laws draw a connection between racism and mental health. Bill 2022-14 does not follow the science, and neither do you. Finally, if you continue to ignore community concerns and openly flaunt the intent of Maryland's red flag laws by choosing to harm somebody with a distinct pattern of racial hatred, you risk significant harm to the entire population of Charles County. I'm here because I see you, and I want to make sure the public sees you, Commissioner Coates.
Thank you.
Good evening. Randolph Senna, 17690 Moore Oak Lane, Hughesville, Maryland, 20637. I, like many in this room, and across our county have relevant points in opposition to this bill. I want to focus on you and your oath of office. I, a retired service member and now working as an inspector general, have lots of experience with taking and keeping an oath to defend and support the Constitution of the United States. We both swore to defend and support this Constitution, and Maryland declares this the supreme law of the state, which we are all bound to. This includes all the amendments and the Second Amendment. The right to bear arms shall not be infringed. You have a duty and obligation to support and defend that right, which you shall not ignore. This bill does nothing but infringe upon our rights and threatens us with criminal prosecution for exercising our right. I'm calling on you to uphold your oath, demonstrate your support and defense to our rights, all of our rights. And if you cannot defend all our rights under your oath, I respectfully request you step down from your position.
Hit that thumbs up button if you agree. Hit that thumbs up button if you agree. If there's more meetings on this, we will go live there.
Speaker Bruce Smalden comes up. The speakers following the other ones I've named: Daniel Waters, Brett Gerhardt.
Hit that thumbs up button for us. Hit that thumbs up button for us. When there's more meetings in the future like this, you can hit the subscribe button. We'll be live at those meetings as well.
DOD employee since 1976. Good standing with this board. My history and service hopefully can the bottom line. What would this bill intend, what would this do for us? Are we having problems with licensed legal carriers of weapons going into our county buildings and causing harm? I don't understand that. Is this law supposed to prevent the lawless and the criminal from coming in and doing what they're already going to do anyhow? That doesn't make sense. Legislating to restrict the rights of honest, law-abiding people makes no sense to me. And the other thing I wanted to say is I agree wholeheartedly with the prior statements from the requirements. That, again, why? It makes no sense whatsoever. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm looking more for reasons we would need this sort of legislation, what we would expect it to do for us in light of the fact that we don't have a problem to begin with. Thank you.
Michelle Woods.
Hi, Michelle Woods, 39575 Lindsay Way. I'm actually a St. Mary's County resident, but I do business in the county, so I thought it was important to come. I believe the hearing should have been postponed for people to have opportunity to review the amended text. And it was also my understanding that since the commissioners introduced the legislation that they can amend it at will before and after a hearing and hold another hearing. I'm not sure if that's accurate, but I'm just saying it out loud. You can see where this would be not in the best interest of citizens, business owners, visitors to the county, and those that work within the borders of the county. For example, with the legislation, information was released, people were unhappy, it was changed, could it be changed back before you actually vote? So that would be unfair to not have another hearing before like the final bill were to be put forth. So personally, I'm opposed to any prohibition or limitation on the rights of a concealed carry card holder. You have to go through training courses with a licensed instructor. You have to qualify with a live firearm. You have to ask the government, the state government, permission to even legally hold your concealed carry card. Then you have to get your HQL still in order to purchase a actual handgun, and then you have to go through the 7-day period of waiting to get your handgun, and you have to do that each time you would purchase another handgun if you had multiples for some reason. So really, if somebody was intending to do harm at the property, they're not gonna go through all those channels, if somebody's legally gonna take all this time and effort. Being a recent concealed carry card holder, just recently got mine in the mail myself, it was a long process that is, yes, made easier presently by the state with the Supreme Court change. However, you know, somebody who wants to do nefarious intent isn't gonna legally purchase their firearm to come in, and I would feel safer if more than just 5 people could possibly shoot back, whether you choose to carry or not. But also, the commissioners can carry, but their staff can't, and I'm sure your staff way outnumber you, so how is that fair to the staff? They have to ask you to protect them, or I have to ask you to protect me, and it's really my job to protect me. So that's kind of my thoughts on the subject. And I appreciate you guys actually paying attention and listening, because many times I've been before a board and they don't listen to who's speaking. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Michael Tyson?
PTP student right there. Give a thumbs up for Mr. Tyson.
Excuse me, sir. 1 second. Is our counsel still in the room? Ms. Mitchell, can you come up to the table? Do we have the ability to table this now?
Yes, sir, you always have the ability to table.
I make a motion to table this public hearing in this legislation right now.
Before you vote, sirs and ma'am,
1 second, sir. I want to make this clear. I'm not trying to disrespect anybody in the room. I just don't want to waste
a lot of us took time to come
But
here.
if you'd like to speak, as long as my colleagues are okay with it, I'm okay with speaking it, with allowing them to speak. Are you okay? My colleagues are okay with that?
Let's handle the motion that's on the floor first.
But I guess if they're speaking, technically, they're not tabled.
Right.
Why do you want to table it?
Withdraw it.
I believe you've recognized that this bill
Withdraw.
needs to work. I believe you've also already made an amendment.
Hold on 1 second. Just give me the respect for the room for 1 second. We're in a discussion mode now, so Commissioner Stewart.
Yeah, so, I heard someone say to dismiss it. When we say table it, that's really what that means. In light of what we've already heard in the public comments that we've received in writing, and now that we were given the state bill, the only issue is that we just didn't want to waste your time. You sit here for 2 hours and then nothing happens anyway. So it's kind of like, we want to give you can speak about it, but we just don't want to waste your time. I'm going to vote to table it, to not move this forward.
As I understand the
Hold on 1 second.
procedure.
Let the county attorney speak real quick.
Excuse me, yeah, Ms. Mitchell, can you clarify the table motion?
So to clarify that, a table would basically be to pause it. If there's an interest in withdrawing the bill, then you would need to make a motion to do that. May I also just say, the Senate bill that Mr. McConnell referenced earlier has been introduced. As you know how these go, that there's no guarantee
Why is she
that will
promoting
pass.
this
If
bill?
it's were to, there's potential for us to be preempted, but that is in the process, so I don't know that you can rely on
Give me
that.
1 second. I withdraw my motion to table. I make a motion to withdraw.
Yes.
Yes!
Was it my scary beard?
What's that?
Was it my scary beard?
Yeah!
Was it my scary beard?
No. I have one too.
So is there for clarification?
I second.
It's been moved on properly second. Are there any further comments?
Let me, if I'm clear, are you removing the table?
Withdraw.
Right, but there's no other motion beyond that.
He did, he moved to withdraw. That's withdraw.
I just want to make sure that
Yep.
it's clear.
Take a vote.
The ayes have it.
Yeah! Woo! Yeah!
Really good call. Good call.
Yes! Holy moly. Yeah. Yes. I don't even. Hey, it's good seeing you again. I'll see you tomorrow. Yep, I'll text you before I head over that way.
I love it, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you, yes, sir.
Be it yourself.
Yes, sir, yes, sir. Yes, sir, thank you. Woo, woo.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hope we meet again.
Enjoy the quality time with the kids, man. Yeah, no problem. All right, guys, give me a second. I got a few last words for you guys. I got a few last words. Don't go anywhere if you're watching. Give me a second. Don't go anywhere yet.
Once in a while. I gotta look at this time I see the clip.
Stay safe. All right, give me a second, guys. Don't go anywhere. I got a last little word for you guys. Hey, how's it going?
There's no guarantee that they won't find another way to reintroduce it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
They'll be back.
All right, guys and gals, if you're just watching, if you're not sure what just happened, long story short, they didn't table the bill, but instead they dismissed it. They withdrew the bill. The bill is no longer, but that don't mean nothing. All right, because they can always bring this back. They can always reintroduce another bill doing essentially the same thing. So with that being said, don't sleep on them. All right, don't let them make you think that this is over, because it's not. We're getting into a busy time of year in Maryland for legislators, both at the county level but also at the state level. So with that being said, give me one moment. Hey, I'm ready. I'm outside now. Oh, there you are. So don't sleep on them. Also, whenever I try to go to as many of these meetings at the county and state level as often as possible, and when I do, I'll be going live here on YouTube. So if you want to see more of these hearings, you want to hear exactly what's going on in these meetings, how it goes down from the perspective of a taxpayer, of a resident, of a law-abiding citizen, then make sure you hit that subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button for our channel here, and you'll be able to see more and more of this. And whenever it comes up, if you don't have the time for it, if you don't have the opportunity to watch and listen in, you can always just ignore the notification that comes in that we're live. But if you don't subscribe, you won't get those notifications, and you won't be in the loop, and you'll be uneducated about what's going on in these processes. They don't go above and beyond to let people know what's happening or how they're trying to restrict your rights or what they're trying to do to you. So we have to have means like this to be able to get that information out to you, out to us, we the people. So I appreciate y'all again today. I'm glad, I want to give credit where it's due to Commissioner Bowling and Stewart for being respectful and being considerate of our time, and not having us go through this entire night talking and saying our piece about why this is such an idiotic law. They cut it short and they said, look, we're not going to vote in favor of this. We don't think the other commissioners are. Let's go ahead and end it now. So, I mean, hey, I'm not going to lie. As a father of a newborn, I'm very appreciative of that, I get to go home now and spend time with the family and stuff and whatnot. But regardless, we cannot allow them to catch us sleeping. We cannot allow them to bring us up in the future again. And when they do, and if they do, we will be there. All right, and we will be letting them know what we think. And I want you all to be able to join us in that. So I appreciate you guys. Stay safe, and we'll see you on the next live. By the way, I am apologizing right now for my hand being shaky and stuff. I didn't come prepared tonight. I didn't have my tripod and stuff like that. I'll make sure to have my tripod going forward in the future. So again, thank you all. Appreciate y'all. Stay safe. See you again next time. Hit that subscribe button.